Okay, Outsider Survivor here. Just want to do a talk about clothing. Uh, some of the clothing that I use. Uh, first of the first things is that the way I actually pack my gear, since most backpacks or duffel bags are round, I will roll it up in a coil like this. Demonstrate this here. I find this is to be pretty nice. You can actually pull, like say, a sock out of the middle or a pair of shorts out, individual items. You can just slide them out and not have to disturb the whole roll. You can look down into your pack and pull out individual items. It's the way I kind of like to do it in a backpack or a duffel bag. You put them in the bottom of a duffel bag so you can get to your clothes. Roll it out. You have access to everything. I'll show you the kind of gear I take when I go backpacking. This is the kind of stuff I might keep in my vehicle so that when if I need to change into clothes, so I would not wear my city clothes into a survival situation. I would just immediately change out of that and into these clothes. My backpack would be relatively empty of clothing since most of it would be on my person. I would change out into this stuff instead of the clothes I wear. Let me go through some of this. I have, for colder weather, I have a ski mask. It's just a wool ski mask, nothing fancy. It's just for extreme cold situations around here that be pushing it. For this environment, that's all I would run into. I keep a pair of mittens. Mittens are warmer than gloves because your fingers are together, so they share the heat. So if you're looking for warmer weather stuff, it's mittens over gloves. Gloves are really for working with. If you're not working with them, you probably don't need them. You can just go with mittens. This is a ultra lightweight wool long john top made by Smart Wool. I got it at the thrift store for like $5. So good to have wool clothing. It's fire resistant, as well as it won't keep you warm when it's wet. That fire resistant thing is huge. A lot of synthetics in here, and it's good to have things that are fire resistant. So if a spark lands on you, if you're around campfires and stuff all the time, you don't run into a problem with that. So lightweight, compact wool clothing that I got at the thrift store. Always go to the thrift store. You can find a lot of this stuff for good prices there instead of going and paying top dollar for it. Wool socks, different thicknesses. Um, I got 5 pairs here. I have a 6th one in my bag, in another place in my bag. But you can put 2 socks together. You can take a thin pair of socks and put it with a thicker pair of socks, and this will actually prevent blisters because the socks will rub against each other instead of your foot rubbing against the sock, and there's less friction when the socks are rubbing, so you don't blister. It'll just be more comfortable, and so when you're buying your boots, put on an extra pair of socks, maybe even 3 pairs of socks if they're real thin, and try your boots on that way when you buy them, so you know that they'll fit. A lot of people don't they buy their boots real snug and they can't put enough socks on when they need to. So make sure you get enough room, spare room in your boots when you buy them. For underwear, I suggest at least 1 pair of boxer briefs, synthetic, but boxer briefs prevent chafage because they go a little further down your leg, and they're just better for extremely active situations. So if all of a sudden you got to hike 20 miles, or you got to ride a bike all day, or whatever it is, if you got to be doing something extra physical, switch into the boxer briefs. They're better for long-term physical activity. I got a pair of shorts here. You don't know what situation you're going to be in. I often hike in shorts, even in cooler weather. I hike in shorts, so I might put, I got a pair of synthetic shorts that I can just throw on to help protect your clothing. You wear through shorts in the woods after a while. That part of you just gets worn out. So it's good to have a pair of shorts you can throw on. I also carry wool pants. Now, if you can go out and get good hunting pants, like military style wool pants, that's probably your best buy. That's probably the way to go. This one is actually what you might see in the service industry, like a forest ranger wearing, or a gas station person, gas station attendant, or a mechanic might be wearing. But this is a wool synthetic blend, and it works extremely well for cold weather. So even if it's a suit, an old wool suit from the thrift store, you can get the wool pants from that suit, throw it in the car, throw it in the back of the pack, because you can switch into that. When it's pouring down rain and your legs are soaking wet, your cotton jeans will kill you. They'll suck the heat right out of you, but the wool will still keep you warm, like I said, even if it's somebody's old suit. So go ahead and grab that, or grab a pair of these like mechanic pants. I got them for $5 or $6 at the thrift store. Until I get a pair of really good wool pants, that's what I got. I got a pair of Polar Fleece long johns here, both top and bottom. Now, it's important to have two sets. This is a hooded sweatshirt. It's synthetic and no zipper, and I have a matching pair of pants that go with it. They're sweatpants and they're synthetic. Now, if it's really cold out, I might have these thicker ones on during the day to keep me warm. And when I go to sleep at night, I would change into the other ones that are in my sleeping bag, dry and clean. Now, it's important to have a set of clothes that you can swap into. So even if this is your insulation layer, make sure you have something else that you can change into when you want to for getting in your sleeping bag at night. So it's just good to have. And if you ever get really cold, you can put them all on to stay extra warm. One of the items I have here, I just want to a little bit of attention to the sweatshirt. I think that honestly this is the thing that gets the most amount of use. A hooded synthetic sweatshirt, like the one I'm wearing now. It has an immense hood, and it's the one you'll see in my videos. I wear it all the time. The reason I do is because of that hood. It was I think a double extra large that I found somewhere, and the hood was enormous, and it can cover my whole face when I sleep at night, so that bugs don't bother me. The cold air doesn't get up against my face. I can still breathe through it. That extra large hood is one of the most useful things that I've come across, and a synthetic sweatshirt can be worn without a t-shirt on, just against the skin, even in warmer weather, and that way it actually dries fast. If it's wet, it dries quickly, so you don't have to worry about it. It's good to hike in. It's good, pretty much, 3-season piece of clothing right there, all by itself, even though you'll get use out of it all year round. Is a synthetic hooded wool sweatshirt with no zippers. Because synthetics are relatively inexpensive, the zippers that are used on them to keep them together are not necessarily the best zippers, and they tend to fall apart and break and wear out, and a zipper actually weighs more than just material. So if you're looking at weight, lose the zipper. They're not that important, and when they break, it makes the garment kind of crappy. So synthetic hooded sweatshirt with really deep hood and no zippers is one of my primary items that gets a tremendous amount of use. So look for that when you go looking for sweatshirts. I also have here something that gets overlooked all the time, and that's a towel. Now this is a really lightweight, very thin towel, and it's just a beach towel, but it's so thin and it's been used so many times that when it does get wet, it dries out very quickly because it is so thin. So cotton is normally something you just don't want to bring in, don't even want to have in a kind of wilderness survival situation. However, drying yourself off with a t-shirt only works so well. It's good to be able to switch to a cotton. If you get wet or you fall in a river, you can go into your bag, pull out a cotton towel, dry yourself off with it, and switch into your other layer of clothing that's wrapped up in the bottom of your bag with your sleeping bag. If you got to start a fire and your hands are wet, you're going to need to dry your hands off. You're going to really want to before you even pull out your lighter, because you put your wet thumb on top of a lighter that otherwise might have started. Now it may not, because you just put wet wet fingers on top of that lighter, and when you go to turn it, it might get moisture on it and not want to fire up. So it's just good to have something you can dry out. I had a buddy of mine lose a sweatshirt. He cut a hole in his towel and used it as a poncho for the remainder of the trip. I've cut a small section off the back and used it as a wash rag when I forgot to bring a wash rag. And by the way, if you're out in the mountains and you're out there for any duration, you'll use soap to clean yourself. You want to use a wash rag when you use the soap. You put the soap on you directly under your skin, and you go to rinse it off, and just by the properties of it, it's going to take forever to rinse off in an ice cold river water. But if you put the soap on a wash rag and get it wet and work up a lather, and then scrub yourself with the wash rag instead of the soap, then it will rinse off quickly. So when you dunk yourself in that ice cold river, the soap will just flow off you instead of having to sit there and slowly scrub in that icy cold water. So surprisingly enough, a towel is very useful. When a towel is dry and clean, it makes an excellent pillow at night, so you can put your head against it. And I mean, with that many uses for it, a friend of mine, we were out for 2 months, and this was the one item that he said that that he was surprised that he had that ended up being so useful. He was like, I asked everybody, well, what was the one thing? And one of them said a towel. We were out for 2 months, and he said that his towel was one of his favorite items that he had, and that he would always take with him when he goes out. So this is just some of the clothing I wear. I also wear a vest. It's made of a rain-resistant or water-resistant material combined with a spandex, so it's slightly stretchy. And these materials, variety of companies make them. I think this is a tremendous pickup. I'm super glad I have it. I'll even put it out underneath myself for insulation. Sometimes when I sleep at night, I'll put it underneath between my bag and my ground cover, so that if I'm on the ground, I can use this as a little bit extra insulation. It's just one more thing you can do. You can even use your clothing to insulate you at night, especially if you're in a dry situation where you're not worried about getting rained on. Okay, I just wanted to cover some of those things so that you can take a look at what I use. Aside from that, if I gotta get warm, I carry a wool blanket, so my pack will be relatively empty, so I can take a lot of food and other things. This clothing, most of it goes onto my person, and the remainder is just a little bit extra that goes back into the pack, so I have room for more food, which is what I like to take when I go out, so I can go for a long term, 2-3 weeks to a month on a single pack with a clothing setup like this. Okay, Outsider Survivor, just saying, stay safe in the woods.